The Qianzhousaurus in Jurassic World Evolution 2 looks like a dragon to me. So its habitat in Jurassic Park Japan is inspired by Asian dragons. The first step was to make a rock arch that looks like the snake-like body of an Asian dragon coming out of the ground and arching over the entry path. This was the most difficult and most time-consuming part of the build, and I vastly underestimated just how difficult and just how time-intensive this would be. I started with an arch of rocks for the general shape, and then I laid down the rows of scales along its back. I didn't even record most of this process because I wasn't even sure if it was gonna work, and I felt kind of camera shy trying to do this while having a recording running. I wanted to do multiple of these arches to show the long body of the dragon winding through the habitat, but this one arch took me so long and was so frustrating to do and boring that I decided against that. This is what I mean when I say I don't want modular building in Jurassic World Evolution 3, because if it does have that, I feel that pressure, like I do now with mods, but it's not actually all that much fun to me. I was much happier working on the rest of the habitat that I'm excited to show you. That being said, I do think this turned out alright, although not exactly as I had imagined. But it is a good start to the habitat. As always, I had a sketch, where you can see the extra arches that I decided to scrap, but it was still a good guide for the overall habitat. I started by terraforming the terrain to create an enclosure that is half on the same level as the guests and half on a lower level, so we can have a bridge crossing over to connect the path back to the rest of the park and give our guests the feeling that they're walking through the dragon's den. For the fences, I went with the log fences because those blended best. They were least obtrusive. I didn't want the fencing to really stand out as gleaming bars of steel, but rather feel more part of the environment and the old Asian, old Japanese theme. For the stupidity barrier around the path, I used the wall pieces from the Asian decorations mod that I had commissioned. This mod has since been expanded, commissioned by fellow park builder Rob Earth, so now this mod has even more amazing pieces. And you should definitely check out what Rob Earth can build with these as well, his channel is linked below. I just placed the wall pieces along the path and then selected them all and sank them down to the level of a low decorative fence to keep guests from stumbling into the lower part of the habitat. On the other side, I'm using some glass wall pieces, which are going to give view of the feeder, which will be placed right on the other side. The Jurassic World light posts fit really well with the Asian aesthetic and tie everything together. I guess my Asian dragon is a bit of a sandworm with how it lives mostly underground, but I had a cool idea of how to add a bit of a spooky factor that way. I created a cave on the opposite rock wall of the path. And the positioning here is important because we need the cave to be in the shadows for this to work. Then I used red lights to simulate the glowing eyes of the dragon. We're creating the illusion that the cave is much deeper and that the head of the dragon is hiding in the shadows, but he's watching us from the dark. The mist effect decoration adds the dragon's smoky breath coming out of the cave. This is definitely my favorite part of the habitat. And depressingly, it was much easier to build than the arch that I built earlier. The last part of the dragon that our guests can see as they walk through the habitat is one of its giant claws. Same as the body arch, it is built out of rocks, but this is another example of something that was way simpler to create that I might actually like more. God dang it. I think it's a really cool and creepy detail and fitting for a theme park type of experience. In my initial idea and sketch, this claw would be attached to another stone arch representing the body, but because I scrapped that, I decided to surround the base with foliage, so it seems like the claw is reaching out through the shrubbery, through the dense forest, instead of appearing out of nowhere. Next detail is a burning log. I just placed the dead log from the game itself and sank the stone torches into the ground so only the flame at the top would show, to make it seem like the fiery breath of the dragon had set the tree on fire. I added something to this little scene later in the build that makes it 100 times better, so stay tuned for that. For now, I just put another stupidity barrier in front of it so our guests don't set themselves on fire. The entrance was still way too open and airy, which wasn't the right vibe, so I added a lot of foliage to fill up the space, and I also narrowed the entrance into the dragon's den with a torii gate and wall pieces, which are some of the new pieces in the Japanese decorations mod commissioned by Rob Earth, and of course shout out to Viral Cyclops for making this amazing mod a reality. The Japanese decorations mod, as well as all of the other mods I'm using, are linked in a Google Doc in the description box. Something the base game is sorely missing is just a low flowering plant, so we can make flower beds to line our paths. Thankfully, with Kai's toolbox, we can sink planters into the ground and use the flowers from those, which was a nice way to fill up the space between the path and the fence. In hindsight, this may be a bit too cheery for the theme of the build, and I am considering changing it to make it more barren and burnt throughout. While building, I guess I was mostly getting stuck into like this vision of making it pretty, and I guess I kind of forgot to follow through on the theme 100%. Let me know in a comment down below what you think, if we should make it pretty because it is still a theme park, or if we should go 100% into the theme. Another part of the build I really like, and which is definitely on theme, is the burning dojo. I separated this from the habitat with some water in which I put an invisible fence so our dinosaurs can't reach this part. And I added another viewing window across from it so our guests can see this part of the habitat and see the destruction caused by the dragon. Again, using the torches sunk down to just the right height, I added flames to the dojo to make it look like the dragon set it on fire. I really like how this all came together and how it adds story to the habitat. This isn't my first time building a dragon-inspired habitat for the Qianzhousaurus, but last time I did it without mods and based on a Western version of the dragon. I built the Qianzhou a castle. You can check out that older build on the channel. The dragon castle is something I want to rebuild now that I'm using mods, so if you want to see what kind of castle I can build, subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, you'll stay up to date on all the news for Jurassic World Evolution 3 as well, which hopefully we'll know more about soon. March 20th is still a date to keep our eyes on. With the key elements of the habitat finished, it's time to flesh it out with more foliage, rocks, and details in the guest areas. As past Evo does that, present Evo wants to apologize for the long wait for this episode. As many of you will know, something happened last month, and I explain in that post that as for content, I will make what I can, when I can. And a Jurassic Park Japan episode just wasn't something I have been up to. I don't want to ruin this park by half-assing a build just to make a deadline. Maybe I should do that, but I don't want to. I will try to get back into the weekly episodes and get back to real-time builds as opposed to speed builds, but I'll just have to see how it goes. Creativity is a fickle thing, for me at least. Some people are talented enough to force it, and I can't. It's just something that sort of happens or doesn't happen. And it wasn't happening for the past few weeks. My idea for an Ultimasaurus bunker build finally got some of that creativity going again. I will link that build at the end in case you haven't seen it yet. I think it's one of the most unique builds for the game, so I'm pretty proud of that. This is the finished dragon's den for the Qianzhousaurus. The body arching over the path, the claw reaching out between the foliage, and of course the head of the dragon hiding in the shadowy cave, its breath filling the area with smoke. To the burning log, I added a half-sunken T-Rex skeleton, which tells the story of the dragon burning down even the powerful T-Rex. Also engulfed in flames is the Japanese dojo as a backdrop detail for the habitat. And this pergola that's built precariously over the edge gives an awesome view into the habitat. If you enjoyed this build, please give the video a like to help it out in the algorithm, and check out some of my other builds like the underground bunker for the Ultimosaurus. I will be back soon with more builds and, hopefully, news on Jurassic World Evolution 3. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.